sudden it disappears, you see? And then it comes back over there. This is called gasket ingestion. Now, wind pressure will do this. When that gasket is ingested far enough, this glass is no longer seated properly and is in danger of falling, okay? Which nobody wants that. I mean, this is tempered, so it's going to break into a lot of small pieces, but it's going to be a shock to come home and see that thing on the ground. Very dangerous. These are some of the telltale signs that these systems have been acted upon by wind pressure. There's so much to look at, and I've really stuck to some of the things that I think you guys are going to see, the commercial, high-rise, the single-family homes. I mean, we can talk, again, for hours on commercial systems, like what you see here. When you drove up to the building today, you see those guys on the scaffolds outside? And you know, they're regasketing, which is exactly what I talked about. This hotel, it probably had some type of certification they needed, and they were doing it. So there's a lot of things that could happen here. Do we have one more? I think we might. Okay, this is another thing, another sliding glass door. This gives you a little geography. This is your footer track. Okay, this is the bottom of the slider. That's your side jamb. This is the inside. This is the outside. Okay, now. This door here was under so much stress because this is the non-operational panel. It's locked shut. The footer track moved, dislodging itself from the jamb side. That's wind pressure. Wind pressure has done that. This is the type of thing where this is what adjusters are going to say. Oh, the wheels need to be adjusted. If the wheels needed to be adjusted, then the whole door would have shifted differently. It wouldn't have concentrated its load variance on this section right here. You see that there? Something to look at. There's a lot of different things to look at.
How do you know it wasn't kicked?
Hey, if you can kick that and move that, God bless you, man. This type of thing, if you can kick that to be that specific and create that type of torquing tension, you can't do it. I mean, you can't duplicate that in a lab. That's something that you can't duplicate right there. Also, if you look up, you'll see gasket ingestion over here and deflection on the glass too, which correlates that type of thing. Couple things. I think that might be it, Kendra. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Couple things I also want you to put down. Primary seal failure. Write down primary seal failure. Primary seal is when you adhere a window system to an MO. And the first thing they do is they create that seal barrier with Sikaflex or some type of approved sealant. And then they adhere the window, and this creates a waterproof seal, a barrier. This type of situation, they nail perpendicular straight through into the structure. Other type of flange windows, they'll screw angular into the frame. If you have deflection on these window systems, the thing that's the problem is the primary seal has failed, which means there's no longer a corrected connection between the window and the structure, okay? That leaves way to all kinds of water infiltration and everything else like that, which is kind of what we were talking about last night with Chip, is that when you have a glazing person, or myself or another company go out and look at it, communicate with them what the nature of the policy is, because you know the language that you guys deal with is very specific, and to prove causation, we really want to kind of get a feel for what is the causation that we're looking for, because some policies say something needs to be impacted first and then water has to come in, and then other policies say, well, it's different, and we really want to know that, because
what Ivan and I were talking about at length some last night is anticipating what that adjuster and the adjuster supervisor is going to talk about in terms of the policy language. And so if you've got the word open, you know, an opening, but you don't have to worry about damage for the water loss, that's one instance. Typically with respect to sliding glass doors and windows, the things that I've asked Ivan specifically to address in the reports, and I think it's even more important under the Texas causation laws that we were talking about previously, where you've got to show the covered damage, okay, is making certain that Ivan addresses wear and tear. And so that he is attributing, you know, what's happened not to items of wear and tear that have occurred in the past, but instead to the particular windstorm event that occurred here. And so literally I've asked him, I want you to anticipate the objections that you've heard in the past and put these into reports up front. And that's your job as the adjuster in terms of working with an engineer such as Ivan, with Al, and with Bruce, who's the accountant. And as a matter of fact, when Bruce gets up here in a little bit and talks, he will be discussing things such that he can help you with in terms of the suspension period, the business of how long the interruption period actually lasts. An accountant can actually help you out because he has expertise with respect to businesses. You had a question, Ron. If it's broken, there's damage, and that's a covered claim. Yes.
Well, and that's a good point. You have what I like to do is, again, we have an escalating inspection protocol. Okay, the first thing that we do when we go out is we do a non-invasive visual inspection of the glazings, and that's something where we sit down and we discuss with you the plan of action, and we start with a certain percentage, and we'll give you the data, and if we need more, we can always get more. And a lot of times that is sufficient because you can see the damage, you can see the profile, you can see the causation. What I like to do, our business practice is I bring an outside PE into the fray also, because we're glazing analysts, we're a glazing inspection company. We bring in an outside engineer who will then do his own sub-inspection and ratify our findings. So you have two bodies of work. You've got our full inspection, and then you have also a stamped copy from a PE specifying his investigation and ratifying it. It becomes kind of an ironclad document. If we need to go on to the next step, which is exactly what that gentleman was asking for, there are invasive tests that you can do on site, which are cyclical wind pressure tests. You can create a sealed environment where you can put load on that window and see where it failed. This is where we get into a little more investigation, because this window right here, I don't even think it has it on here. No, I wouldn't. No, this window would probably rated for plus or minus 45, plus or minus negative or positive 45 pounds. Well, if you have a storm that comes through here, and this is where Rocco is great, that wind speed hit that building at 120 miles per hour, 3-second bursts. They have a calculation which goes wind speed to wind pressure, because this is not the same thing. And they will say, well, the sustainable pressure that hit this building was, whatever, 62. I mean, I'm pulling a number out of the air here. But they said, well, that's way above the threshold of this installed system. And the failure point was here. And they can go ahead and they can show you that in a scientific environment. A couple of things. Everybody's eyes light up. They're like, oh, let's do that. It'll win all kinds of cases. You got to be careful. In certain instances, because those tests are very, very specific, and when you pull them out, you really want to pull them out in the right way. A lot of times, the damage is there. Once you show it, once you prove it, it then goes into back and forth with the insurance company saying, hey, exactly what's taking place here. We walk through it. We explain what it is, and a lot of times that's really all you need. The next step would be the next step would be to remove the window and bring it to a lab. That, to me, is really a bad option, because you cannot install that window the same way that it was originally in a lab environment, and the tests have a lot of holes in it. So just be careful when someone says, well, let's bring this one into a lab. It might not be the right option. Yes, sir.
A house that's, say, 10 years old, has all the legal windows. The builder at that time had some community arson against it. Instead of putting all the new windows in all each house, they put storm windows.
On top of them, yeah.
All the seals on the interior windows are separated, and there's 2 rooms that have a lot of water.
Yes. Now,